Today I would like to invite you to listen to the Dhammapada of the Buddha Shakyamuni, the 107th verse from the Buddhist scriptures on the YouTube channel TN Thai in the USA. Though, for a century a man should tend the sacred fire in the forest, yet, if, only for a moment, he should honor a saint who has perfected himself, that honor is, indeed, better than a century of fire sacrifice. In this verse, the Buddha teaches the profound merit of honoring one who has perfected the mind, whose conduct, wisdom, and insight embody the highest Dharma. External acts, even if performed with devotion and diligence for a lifetime, cannot surpass the benefit of a single, mindful recognition of a saint who exemplifies virtue, ethical conduct, and liberation. Fire sacrifice, a revered ritual in ancient times, symbolizes long-term, external effort devoted to spiritual or societal merit. Yet, the Buddha emphasizes that inner cultivation, recognition of wisdom, and sincere reverence toward perfected beings cultivate understanding, insight, and ethical refinement directly within the mind, producing lasting merit beyond the limitations of ritual or material offering. This teaching reminds practitioners that the essence of spiritual life is internal cultivation, ethical conduct, and the development of wisdom, rather than reliance on external practices alone. The story associated with this verse in the Dhammapada demonstrates its truth vividly. A devoted ascetic, committed to tending sacred fires in the forest for decades, accumulated merit according to the ritual tradition. Though diligent and sincere, his mind remained entangled in subtle pride, distraction, and attachment to the recognition of ritual performance. Upon encountering a fully realized saint, the ascetic paused and observed the serene presence, ethical conduct, and radiant wisdom of the perfected being. In that single moment of sincere honor and attention, he felt a profound shift within his heart and mind. The recognition of the perfected one cultivated humility, clarity, and ethical inspiration, surpassing the merit of countless years of fire sacrifice. The ascetic realized that the essence of spiritual practice is not in the external accumulation of ritual, but in the transformation of the mind through mindfulness, ethical conduct, and insight. This story illustrates that even brief, mindful attention to a saint embodies a merit and transformative potential that far exceeds years of diligent ritual performed without insight or awareness. The 107th verse also teaches that the recognition of a perfected being awakens understanding, cultivates ethical conduct, and nurtures the mind in ways that material or ritual offerings alone cannot. Fire sacrifice, though traditionally valued, may develop external merit, yet it does not guarantee internal clarity, insight, or liberation. Honoring a saint, however, directs attention toward qualities of virtue, wisdom, patience, and ethical conduct, encouraging the practitioner to emulate and internalize these qualities. Stories in the Dhammapada recount disciples who, by observing and honoring those perfected in the Dharma, transformed habitual tendencies of anger, desire, and pride into ethical action, restraint, and insight. The Buddha teaches that the act of honoring a saint is transformative because it engages the mind with reverence, mindfulness, and reflection, cultivating qualities essential for liberation. A single moment of such recognition can produce insight, calm, and inspiration far exceeding the benefit of centuries of ritual. Furthermore, the verse emphasizes the importance of intention, attention, and sincerity in spiritual practice. It is not the duration, number, or scale of ritual offerings that produces supreme merit, but the quality of awareness and devotion directed toward ethical, mindful, and wise beings. A moment of mindful attention to a perfected being engages the heart and mind directly, fostering humility, receptivity, and reflection. the story of the ascetic tending the sacred fire demonstrates that when awareness shifts from mechanical ritual performance to mindful reverence, the mind experiences profound transformation. Insight arises, ethical conduct is strengthened, and the seeds of liberation are nurtured. The Buddha teaches that internal cultivation, ethical reflection, and mindfulness are the pillars of lasting spiritual merit, and recognizing a saint exemplifies these qualities in action. Finally, the 107th verse highlights the enduring and incomparable value of honoring one perfected in Dharma. While external offerings and rituals may produce merit subject to impermanence, attachment, and decay, the benefit arising from mindful attention to a saint transforms the mind directly. This transformation produces insight, ethical refinement, and serenity that endure beyond temporal limitations. The ascetic's story demonstrates that even the briefest moment of sincere honor can awaken understanding, cultivate ethical conduct, and inspire continued practice. The Buddha instructs that true merit arises from the mind, and honoring those perfected in wisdom and virtue cultivates the mind, awakening clarity, compassion, and insight. This teaching emphasizes that internal cultivation through mindfulness, reverence, and ethical reflection surpasses external ritual, guiding the practitioner toward lasting merit, noble action, and the path to liberation. The 107th verse teaches us that the depth of spiritual practice is measured not by external offerings, rituals, or ceremonies, but by the cultivation of the mind through mindfulness, ethical conduct, and insight. The act of honoring a saint who has perfected themselves engages the heart and mind in a way that rituals cannot. It awakens respect for virtue, clarity of understanding, and inspiration to follow the path of self-discipline, compassion, and wisdom. Stories in the Dhammapada describe practitioners who, after encountering fully realized beings, experienced profound transformation, recognizing the impermanence of external acts and the enduring value of ethical cultivation and mindfulness. The ascetic who tended sacred fires for decades observed this truth firsthand. Though he had devoted countless years to ritual practice, it was the single, sincere moment of honoring a perfected saint that illuminated the path, awakened insight, and transformed his perception of merit and spiritual purpose. This verse teaches that spiritual life is not a matter of quantity or duration of external acts, but the quality of attention, sincerity, and ethical mindfulness. Moreover, the verse emphasizes the cultivation of humility and receptivity. When one honors a saint, the mind softens, ego diminishes, and humility allows true learning to occur. The ascetic, despite decades of rigorous fire sacrifice, recognized that his ritual acts, while virtuous, could not cultivate the deep inner clarity and ethical refinement observed in the perfected being. Through humility and mindful attention, he became receptive to guidance, understanding, and the living example of virtue, insight, and restraint. Honoring a saint is not mere formality. It is an engagement of the heart and mind with wisdom, ethical conduct, and inspiration. The Buddha teaches that this engagement cultivates qualities essential for liberation, including patience, mindfulness, self-restraint, and insight. This practice transforms both perception and behavior, strengthening the mind and aligning it with the path of awakening. The 107th verse also illustrates the power of intention and mindful presence. Even a brief moment of conscious reverence toward one perfected in Dharma creates merit far exceeding that of countless external acts performed without awareness. The mind, fully attentive, absorbs the example of ethical conduct, the clarity of wisdom, and the serenity of virtue. The ascetic's experience demonstrates that this attention opens the door to reflection, ethical refinement, and insight into the impermanent, conditioned, and interconnected nature of life. By directing the mind toward virtue, mindfulness, and wisdom, practitioners cultivate inner merit that transforms habitual patterns of anger, desire, and delusion into calm, restraint, and insight. The Buddha teaches that this inner cultivation, inspired by honoring the perfected, produces enduring benefit, directly nourishing the mind and guiding it toward liberation. Furthermore, the verse encourages the integration of this practice into daily life. Honoring those perfected in the Dharma should inspire ethical action, reflection, and mindfulness in every thought, word, and deed. By observing their example, the practitioner cultivates patience, compassion, self-restraint, and insight. Stories in the Dhammapada recount disciples who, inspired by arahants, gradually transformed reactive and harmful tendencies into ethical and mindful conduct. The ascetic tending the fire, upon recognizing the merit of honoring a perfected saint, began to shift his practice from external ritual accumulation to ethical reflection, mindfulness, and internal cultivation. Through this shift, he cultivated serenity, clarity, and insight that far surpassed any external merit from ritual alone. The verse teaches that the recognition of wisdom and virtue inspires ethical refinement and mindful living, creating merit that is enduring, transformative, and directly supportive of spiritual liberation. Finally, the 107th verse demonstrates the imperishable nature of merit arising from honoring those perfected in Dharma. Material offerings, rituals, or external acts are impermanent and contingent. Yet the transformation of the mind through mindful attention, ethical reflection, and inspiration from perfected beings endures. The ascetic story shows that even a single, sincere moment of honoring a saint produces clarity, insight, and ethical refinement that remain long after external acts fade. The Buddha emphasizes that inner cultivation, mindfulness, ethical action, and reverent attention to wisdom is the source of enduring merit. By honoring perfected beings, the practitioner strengthens virtue, cultivates insight, and aligns the mind with the path of awakening, demonstrating that the highest benefit arises from internal cultivation rather than external performance. The 107th verse also teaches that honoring a saint strengthens the practitioner's resolve and dedication to the Dharma. When one observes the serenity, wisdom, and ethical conduct of a perfected being, the mind is naturally inspired to follow the same path. Stories in the Dhammapada recount disciples who, through repeated engagement with enlightened beings, gradually cultivated patience, ethical reflection, and insight. The ascetic tending the fire experienced this inspiration firsthand, realizing that external acts alone could not bring the depth of understanding or transformation he observed. By honoring a saint, he was motivated to turn inward, cultivate mindfulness, and develop ethical conduct, resulting in profound inner peace and clarity. The Buddha teaches that this inspired attention is itself a form of merit, nurturing the seeds of insight, ethical refinement, and spiritual growth, which are more enduring than centuries of ritual performance. This verse also emphasizes the transformative nature of conscious attention. A single moment of genuine honor directed toward one perfected in the Dharma activates the mind's capacity for insight and ethical reflection. The mind observes the qualities of wisdom, restraint, and virtue, internalizing these qualities through reflection and aspiration. The ascetic's encounter demonstrates that even brief moments of sincere recognition can shift the orientation of the mind, fostering ethical awareness, patience, and mindful action. The Buddha teaches that the quality of attention, sincerity, and reverence determines the magnitude of spiritual benefit. Mindful engagement with a perfected being cultivates clarity, ethical conduct, and insight far exceeding what is achieved through prolonged, but inattentive ritual performance. This teaching encourages practitioners to cultivate awareness, intention, and respect in every encounter with wisdom, insight, and virtue. Furthermore, the verse instructs us on the importance of internalizing the teachings of perfected beings. Honor is not simply an external gesture. It is an engagement of the mind and heart with ethical principles, mindfulness, and wisdom. By observing the example of the saint, the practitioner learns to cultivate restraint, ethical conduct, and insight in daily life. Stories from the Dhammapada show disciples who gradually overcame habitual tendencies of anger, attachment, and delusion by reflecting on the example of arahants. The ascetic tending the fire realized that the highest merit arises not from external ritual, but from ethical cultivation, mindful attention, and reflection inspired by the perfected. This internalization transforms the mind, guiding the practitioner toward liberation, wisdom, and serenity. Finally, the 107th verse highlights the enduring and incomparable value of honoring those perfected in Dharma. Unlike material offerings or ritual practices, which are impermanent and contingent, the merit arising from mindful attention and reverence for a saint directly cultivates the mind, producing insight, ethical refinement, and spiritual growth that endure. The Buddha emphasizes that the highest benefit in spiritual practice arises from internal cultivation, mindfulness, ethical conduct, and attention to wisdom. By honoring those perfected in Dharma, the practitioner strengthens virtue, develops insight, and aligns with the path of liberation, demonstrating that true merit is not measured by duration or quantity of external acts, but by the quality of attention, reverence, and internal cultivation. May we reflect on the 107th verse in daily life, cultivating mindfulness, sincerity, and reverence for those perfected in Dharma. Even a single moment of honoring a saint transforms the mind, cultivates insight, and surpasses centuries of external ritual. Finally, the 107th verse calls us to recognize that the most profound benefit in spiritual practice arises from internal cultivation, rather than external accumulation. Honoring a saint, even for a brief moment, awakens understanding, strengthens ethical conduct, and inspires mindfulness, patience, and insight. The ascetic tending sacred fires, despite decades of diligent ritual, realized that true transformation came not from external action, but from sincere recognition of the perfected one. The Buddha emphasizes that the mind is the source of merit, insight, and liberation. By focusing attention, cultivating humility, and honoring wisdom and virtue, the practitioner develops lasting merit that cannot be measured by the duration or number of external offerings. Stories in the Dhammapada reinforce this teaching, showing that disciples who honor enlightened beings cultivate ethical conduct, overcome habitual defilements, and develop insight, producing merit that is enduring, transformative, and directly conducive to liberation. The practice of honoring perfected beings also strengthens resolve, encourages mindfulness, and inspires ethical living. By observing the conduct, serenity, and wisdom of a saint, the mind aspires to emulate these qualities, gradually transforming attachment, aversion, and delusion into restraint, compassion, and clarity. The 107th verse teaches that even a single moment of sincere attention produces these effects, surpassing the merit of extended ritual practice. By integrating reverence into daily life, one cultivates continuous mindfulness, reflection, and ethical action, creating a foundation for long-term spiritual progress. The Buddha emphasizes that internal cultivation, ethical refinement, and mindful engagement with wisdom are the true sources of lasting merit, demonstrating that honoring those perfected in Dharma is the supreme act of spiritual benefit, capable of transforming the mind and guiding it toward liberation. Thank you for watching my video. Namo Amit Ba. I wish to bring this merit towards all disciples and sentient beings, all of whom will attain Buddhahood. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate your time.